Good afternoon, and thank you all for joining us today. I have the honor of introducing today's keynote speaker, Mr. Bob Bakish, President and Chief Executive Officer of Viacom International Media Networks. Mr. Bakish is responsible for all of Viacom's brands and franchises outside the United States, including MTV, Nickelodeon, Comedy Central, SpongeBob SquarePants, and much, much more. In fact, you could say that he is responsible for the export and import of what some would say are America and Korea's greatest asset, pop culture entertainment. For more than 30 years, Viacom's powerful trailblazing brands have become ubiquitous around the world, bringing consumers world-class entertainment. Today, Mr. Bakish will address the subject of content and its role in fueling the proliferation and advancement of technology as he explores the notion of who is the real media king. Going into his 15th year at Viacom, Mr. Bakish previously served as president of MTV Networks International and currently sits on the boards of Viacom's joint ventures in India, the UK, and Italy. He was named president of Viacom International Media Networks in January 2011. A two-time Columbia University graduate who serves on the Business School's Board of Overseers and Media Forum, as well as the Engineering School's Board of Visitors. Before we welcome Mr. Bakish to the stage, let's take a look at some of the amazing content that Viacom creates around the world.
여러분들께서는 방금 세계 최대의 엔터테인먼트 브랜드와 놀라운 콘텐츠 영상들을 보셨습니다.
네, 세계 최고의 유명인들 사이에서 각자 역할을 담당하고 있는 아시아인들의 얼굴을 보는 건 굉장히 뿌듯하고 정말 자랑스러운 일이 아닌가 생각합니다. 네, 전 세계 수많은 사람들을 열광하게 만드는 이런 콘텐츠들을 만들어내는 데에는 누구보다도 이분의 공이 크다고 생각합니다. 네, 이분을 소개해드리게 되어서 저도 정말 영광으로 생각하는데요. 여러분, 로버트 바키쉬 대표님을 소개합니다.
Thank you, Girls' Generation, and thank you, Professor, for that lovely introduction. It's a pleasure to be here in Seoul in front of this distinguished audience for the Seoul Digital Forum. I was asked to address the question of media. who is the real king? And as president and CEO of Viacom International Media Networks, as I said, I oversee quite a bit of media and quite a bit of content, overseeing all our operations outside the United States. Viacom Media Networks. We reach over 670 million homes in 160 countries, in 34 languages, 170 plus channels, and 500 digital properties. And we've been in Asia for a long time. MTV dates back to 1991, Nickelodeon to 1993. Today we have 21 channels in our portfolio, including 2 that we recently launched in Singapore and Malaysia. We also run programming blocks on terrestrial broadcasters. We have localized versions of our digital properties on wired internet, on mobile, and we have a pretty substantial consumer products business. And across these businesses, we run a number of great brands, as you saw. We run MTV, we run Nickelodeon, we run Comedy Central, we run a brand called Colors in India, and so on and so forth. Now, as part of our commitment to Asia, in 2008, I was here with our chairman, Sumner Redstone. And on this very stage, he asserted that content is the once and future king. That as platforms and players proliferate, only one truth is self-evident, and that is that content reigns supreme. It's a pretty big statement. And so the organizers of this forum asked me to come and speak with you this afternoon and answer a relatively simple question. Given all that's happened with technology in the last 3 years, is this statement still true? It's an important question, obviously, for a media company like Viacom. It's an important question for everyone in this room who works at the intersection of technology, media, and business. Excuse me. So let's talk about some things that have happened in the technology space. The mobile business has clearly exploded. Today, mobile handsets are the most ubiquitous devices on the planet. There are said to be 4.7 billion of these little things, well, this is a clicker, but you know what I mean, worldwide. And that number is expected to grow by another billion, according to the experts, by 2015. Now, for a media company, probably the more relevant figure is the fact that roughly 1/3 of those, about 1.5 billion of those, today are smartphones. Now, as we all know, smartphones are good for a lot more than just talking on the phone. You can obviously text with them, but you can also run apps with them. You can view video on them. So they can really be a very powerful media device. And there's no question that they're starting to impact the business, I believe, in a positive way, and I'll come back to for our company why. Tablets. These things didn't even really exist 2 years ago. And yet at this year's CES in Las Vegas, Consumer Electronics Show, 80 new tablets were introduced by a range of great technology brands. And sales of this platform are projected to double in this year alone. And there's no question, my guess is half of the people in this room have them, that as you get to have an Apple iPad, a Galaxy, what have you, that it does begin to affect the way you consume media. And it opens up great opportunities for content companies like a Viacom. And then there's smart TVs, a little closer to the traditional we're used to dealing with, big screen, high definition, et cetera, but increasingly powerful and connected. And in Korea, Samsung effectively, I believe I was looking at figures of the market leader in the US. So smart TVs are a big part of the Korean landscape as well. And with applications like Hulu and Netflix, we're starting to see alternate delivery of content to these devices. Now, for us as a media company, actually this is a really good thing. We're not feeding through connected TVs the same content you can get on multi-channel television, cable operator or direct-to-home satellite. But we are unlocking vast libraries of content that aren't currently on the air. And for us in the United States, Netflix has order of magnitude 24 million homes. That's a pretty exciting opportunity. And yesterday I saw some of the latest generation of smart TVs here in Korea, and they are really pretty extraordinary. And again, pose great potential for the media business. And then there's social networking. 1 billion users worldwide, 500 of them on Facebook, 175 million on Twitter. These are being called the weapons of mass mobilization. This year, perhaps, was a turning point in their impact on broad consumer society, as they were pointed to as one of the key facilitators, for better or worse, of some of the events that happened in the Middle East and Africa. Very powerful tools of an increasingly connected society. And of course, connection is the theme of these 3 days. When we look at it, Viacom, we see new platforms as great distribution for great ideas. You know, if you think back to a song, pretty famous song that the Beatles wrote called Revolution, I'm pretty sure they didn't write it to sell it on iTunes. They didn't even write it to put it on satellite radio, or the CD for that matter. No, they just wrote a really great song. And today the technology has evolved, and new platforms have opened up for that song, showing, you know, how great content can thrive across a variety of platforms. At Viacom International Media Networks, we have a categorization of business we like to call glocal. Part global, part local. And you see these franchises going by. They're examples of the local component of our franchises. Things like MTV Zen, currently on the screen. It's a local MTV property, mainland China. It's a television show with some interactive components, syndicated across our distribution base, reaching 200 million people. And it's an example of how, in that case, Chinese local content lives on MTV. Some of the earlier ones you saw were world stage examples, including Korean acts. So glocal to us is very important. It complements the international programming slate we have with great local product. And speaking of local product, a little known fact in the broader entertainment world is that Viacom actually produces a lot of the world's favorite animation in Korea. We'll come back to SpongeBob SquarePants, which was probably our first breakout Korean hit. Might have been designed in LA, but it was actually produced in Korea. Today we work with 7 Korean animation studios. And we're producing the current series Avatar. And we're going to produce Kung Fu Pandas for television following the release of the second movies. So we do a lot of traditional media work in a very high-tech land of Korea. And it's an important part of our global strategy because it not only serves Korea, but it also is a way we export Korean product to our global networks. And speaking about exporting Korean product, there's this little phenomenon called K-pop. I'm sure some of you have heard of it. I've been told it's $1 billion business. And I don't have the exact figures to confirm that, but it's clearly a big business. But what I can absolutely tell you is it's vibrant not only in Korea, but on our MTVs, particularly in Japan and in other Asian countries. And it's also a fundamental piece of our Asian event business, whereby we bring great Korean acts to locations, and then we film them on the location, and we share it either in Asia or perhaps for the world, depending on the act. We've had Korean acts like Wonder Girls, like Big Bang, like Super Junior perform at these events, and they are always hits. And, you know, if you look at last week across Asia, the #1 rated show on MTV was Music Fest, and it is in large part about K-pop. So again, another example of a Korean product in our global model that works not only in Korea, but also in other important countries in the world. Speaking of the event business, we're very well known for award shows and spectacle events. You saw some of them on the tape where we started. So at next month's VMAJs, which was usually Video Music Award Japan, but this year, in light of the recent events, we've rechristened as Video Music Aid Japan, and working with the Japanese Red Cross. We're bringing, again, great K-pop acts like SHINee, great international acts, Lady Gaga, and some additional acts, including a very significant Korean act to be named. And we're filming that show, broadcasting it live across Asia, and then taking a 1-hour version of the show and using it across all our MTVs around the world under our World Stage umbrella. So a way of sourcing, great content that people want to see and leveraging it to the global network. Today, technology lets us expand on, innovate on, and curate our content. It allows us to extend the experience, do all kinds of value-added things that both enhance the value of linear and drive people to spend more time with the content off linear. We talked about Facebook and Twitter in the broad sense. Well, I'm happy to say that in our little world, we have 180 million fans and followers on these networks. A pretty substantial army in its own right. And for us, these networks are weapons of mass mobilization for TV audiences. So when we launch franchises, have major programming events, launch a new network, we work in a very interconnected way with the social media landscape to engage our target audiences and bring them to our product. And I would say over the first time we did this was probably 3 years ago with the MTV Video Music Awards, but we refine it every time. And it's really a pretty big deal. So last year, our biggest international show is the MTV European Music Awards, the EMAs, was in Madrid, great town. And there, we took our host, Eva Longoria. We had her do a little rap piece where she was talking about herself on the show. We put it out on the internet through the social networks. People talked about it. It went viral. We obviously did this in advance of the show, and it helped create buzz for the show. We also took another kind of well-known guy, Justin Bieber, and had him be our digital host for the EMAs, providing commentary on acts, being backstage, all kind of supplemental product rooted through the digital infrastructure. We also took some EMA product and provided it to our MBL, mobile brand license customers. We only have this operation up in Europe, but we're in partnerships with 5 carriers where we have an MTV branded mobile service. Today we have 2.5 million subs. We get a piece of the ARPU. They get minutes, SMS, branded devices, and importantly, content. And so we extended the EMA experience in a special way for those subscribers who are clearly important fans for us. And all this stuff put together, plus the fact that it was a decent television show, led us to our highest ratings in years, where we blew through our projections and had incredible performance on what we call a touch point basis. Our lovable yellow sponge. Korean product. You're watching it in multiple platforms. It is a linear hit everywhere in the world it plays, including in Korea here and in China, where we work with CCTV, and it's among the highest rated animated programming in China. Everywhere it goes, people love the yellow sponge. But there's a lot more to do with it than just watch it on linear television. And rather than me talk about that, I thought I'd show you a little piece of tape about how he lives through linear and through technology in this incredible multi-platform world.
I didn't want to be embarrassed for anything that I made.
스펀지밥 가장 좋아하는 스펀지밥.
This was all because of me.
So content. We believe content is king, and we see it every day because it provides the stories that engage audiences. It's the material that make platforms happen. We talk to platform operators regularly. We have long-standing business relationships in the multi-channel community. We talk to CE manufacturers, mobile carriers, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And increasingly, for the new call entrants, conversations, what kind of content can we add to differentiate the product? Because ultimately, we need to bring content to these platforms to get consumers' time. We look at it as the stuff that makes the world go around. In our local model, sometimes people focus only on local attributes. Sometimes people like an international experience. But at all times, it engages them, whether they're preschoolers, high schoolers, college, young adults, even adults. We find that great content is the stuff that makes the world go around because it fuels people's passion and desire. So thank you for letting me speak to you. We're going to do a Q&A, but before we do that, I just want to show you briefly again how this stuff lives.
Okay, thank you very much, Bob, for your very insightful talk. I learned a great deal, and I feel very much privileged to have this opportunity to hear about who's the real king from the real king of entertainment industry. Okay. So before we take the questions from the floor, let me start with a few questions of mine. Okay. Then we will take questions from the floor. Okay. You know what? I am convinced. I'm convinced that the content is the real king, and it will remain so in the future. But let me ask you a somewhat provocative question. My question is, isn't it self-evident? I mean, to be sure, content is the point where everything that follows gets started. So in this sense, in the beginning, there were contents. But it seems to me that the real question lies in how you redefine contents. Okay? So it's not simply about posting articles on Facebook, Twitter, providing video clips on YouTube. There can be millions of different ways of redefining content. So it seems to me that the real genius of Viacom lies in knowing how to redefine content. Could you tell us more about this?
Sure. I think there are occasions when we take an existing piece of linear content and we put it on an alternate platform, be it a subscription streamed service like a Netflix, be it a mobile handset, be it as TV everywhere accessed through an iPad. And there's no question that that provides additional usage occasions for a product we do. I mean, one of the great things about technology is, of course, that it now allows us to deliver a product that traditionally could only be delivered in the living room when you were sitting on a sofa. Now we can deliver it when you're commuting on an hour for a train, when you have a break in the office, etc. But also, sometimes getting the most out of technology requires the product to change. One example that was on the tape, but I didn't talk about, was what we're doing with SpongeBob, where coming, I think, next quarter in Asia, on a sequential market rollout basis, we're bringing out an MMOG based on that character. So there, it's taking a character that people love, taking storylines, taking our knowledge and research that kids love to play games, and combining that into a new product. If you looked at the Justin Bieber example in the EMAs, that is an incremental part of our EMA product because it is new content that people are consuming, usually simultaneously, by the way, with the linear feed, but in the digital space. So there, I believe, have been and will no doubt be many more examples of companies like ours creating content in different ways for new platforms. It might be for a franchise that spans platforms, or it could be only for maybe new franchises for specific platforms. But I think you're right. And I'm sure, and I know it's a focus of ours, that working on creating content for different platforms does require evolving the definition of content.
Okay. Thank you. Let me ask just one more question before I open the floor. With this arrival of smartphones and tablet PCs, many people predicted that these mobile devices will be the ultimate winner. Okay? But I'm still on the side that TV experience is fundamentally different from the mobile experiences. So the coming of smart TVs may or may not prove this. Okay? Would you share with us your ideas about whether or not these two killer devices, mobiles and smart TVs, will converge into one? Or if not, how the smart TV experiences will differ from these mobile experiences?
We serve a lot of TV viewers around the world. And I can tell you today that our total TV consumption has never been higher. So people do love to spend time with television, and they particularly love their really thin, really big, flat-screen TVs. It's a great experience for in a communal effort with people on the couch, or even a one-on-one effort. The advent of smart TVs, internet-connected TVs, has allowed us, again, to deliver additional content to these TVs relative to what they could get from their subscription TV provider, simply because the subscription TV provider only has so much channel capacity. So you might go back to, I don't know, one of the old famous MTV series, Beavis and Butthead. That hasn't been on air for a long time, but it is available through connected TVs in markets, increasing number of markets around the world. So I think that experience will continue to grow. And again, right now, the way the windows and the companies work, it is very complementary to our existing and important subscription TV business. The mobile side, partially because the screens are smaller, partially because it's mobile, has different uses. But I can tell you, yesterday I saw a great demo of the intersection of the two, where you're using your tablet as a remote control and really second screen for your smart TV. It was pretty cool. And I think opens your eyes to the power of the intersection of these devices. So I think what we will see is a combination of both. We will see individual platforms continue to prosper, and we will see this connected world, particularly for younger generations. I have two daughters, teenagers, interesting by the way. And the way they use media is fascinating. They have their iPad and they're watching TV. And they think it's totally normal. So I do think we will continue to see evolutions of that behavior. I know we will see product designed to capture the value of that. And again, I think some of what we've been doing on our award shows are, let's call it early versions of where we'll eventually get to. But I have no question that that entertainment experience, regardless of where it is, and particularly if it's in multiple places, will continue to be something that people covet and will continue to be what drives people to buy, you know, their next big screen, their next tablet, their latest smartphone, what have you.
Thank you. I believe this enthusiastic audience must have a lot of questions, so let me take a couple of questions from the audience. If you have questions, please raise your hand, and you can ask questions in Korean language if you prefer.
Thank you, Mr. Bakish. I'm Ki-young Kim from Seoul, Korea. I'm totally agree with you that that what you said, content is the king. But I want to ask you one question. What do you think about this? Who will make contents in the future? I think that in the future, many people can make, many individuals can make contents by themselves. What do you think about this?
You're absolutely right. I don't think it's in the future, though. I think it's today. Part of what these digital appliances do is really democratize, on some levels, content creation. So we see a broad spectrum of types and quality levels of content. You know, probably the highest end of the food chain is, let's call it the Hollywood blockbuster. A film that costs $200 million to make, $200 million to market, might go on to gross $1 billion plus. That's a pretty specialized business. In the high-end television space, you're seeing cost per episodes in the $2 million range, maybe plus. Again, certain quality levels attainable. By the way, it's not just about the quality, it's about the story writing and other things. In the multi-channel game, you're seeing maybe reality shows at a couple $100,000 to $750,000 price points. And you do see, at the lower end of the range, people creating shorts, putting them up on YouTube, or maybe creating stuff as part of a 360 advertising relationship that also spans television. We do some of that. And you do engage more people in the creation of original content. I think that's a healthy thing. We also engage people on the creation of derivative products sometimes. So it ties back to maybe a television show, but it's a way that people can participate in that show in the way that a true fan would want to. So I do believe that will continue to grow. In terms of product that gets the most exposure, it's hard for truly consumer uploaded product to get, on a regular basis, huge exposure. But some of those will break through, just like in the professional side, some shows become monster hits, but most don't. So as content continues to evolve, we will see more people participate in it, enabled by the powerful technology they're using. And again, we look at it sometimes as a farm team for the creative community. We found some interesting people that produced some amateur product who now produce, if you will, professional product. But there's no doubt it's part of the food chain and the consumption chain.
Okay, we still have time for, I think, one more question. Please.
I have two questions, please. They're both short.
Please make it very brief.
They're very brief. How do you see the development of 3D and HD and your involvement in it? And the second question is, user-generated content, this one about SpongeBob in China, has got 65 million views in the last 3 years. How do you see that as either damaging or promoting your product?
So we now have HD product on every continent. and we continue to add to our portfolio of HD services. We now have MTV, Nickelodeon, and Comedy Central available in HD in Europe. And again, we have at least one HD service on every continent. So I think HD is at the point where it will continue to grow, because when people have access to, I'm sure if you look at it at home yourself, the HD experience is better. You know, the picture's higher quality, and when you have choice, frequently, and I'll speak personally, I check out what's available in HD first because it's just a little bit better. So I think HD alive and well, and will certainly grow from here. 3D, we're very much at the first early phase of 3D in television. It has established itself in the theatrical venue. About 20% of US box office was 3D this year, which is a big number, by the way. Now, part of that is because they're the bigger titles and the cost per ticket is higher, but 20% is a big deal. In the television, you know, the home, the experience is a little tougher. You know, you need to be focused on it, but more importantly, we're starting to have sets out there, but operators are moving relatively slowly to embrace 3D services. We've done a couple of 3D products, not full channels, but think of them as episodes. And we've supplied them to some cable operators around the world. I believe we will continue to grow that slowly, but we're looking for a way to significantly increase the volume. And right now, for us, the economics aren't quite there yet. You know, it's a little bit of a chicken and egg situation, but I think it will get bigger. Whether it ultimately becomes like HD, which again is a format that you can view casually in your house and therefore is fine as a replacement to SD, I don't know. Because if you've seen it, it does require more attention. At the moment, it requires glasses. That'll probably change. But I think we still have a ways to go in the 3D space. But I'm excited about some of the stuff, not only that I've seen, but also that we've done. On the SpongeBob user-generated point, look, I'd love to see a world where we could do a lot of mashups, you know, taking a professional piece of product and letting a consumer edit it, if you will, and intersect it with other things. It's still a little bit troubling from a rights perspective. It's still a little bit troubling from a control perspective. I do believe over time those issues will be worked out. And I point to it as an example of how fans, in your example of SpongeBob, thank you for that, they love to be engaged with their favorite product, so they want to play with it. And you know, I'd love to see an environment where we can make more of that happen. We're working on it, but it's a little tricky.
Thank you. I believe that, I'm sure that the audience has a lot more questions, but the time is almost up, so please, I ask for your understanding. And I would like to thank the audience for their enthusiasm and the people of SBS for making this wonderful event happen. And most of all, to Mr. Bakish for sharing your ideas and vision with us. Please give Mr. Bakish a big applause.
Thank you. Pleasure to be here.